After generating $60 million in revenue for my clients using paid ads and sales funnels, I've realized most of the information you're told about them is complete BS. Most of it's generic, outdated, and a lot of mindless rules of thumb versus advice based on solid first principles thinking. So in this video, I'm giving you the exact ads and sales funnel advice I wish I had when I first started out. And by the end, you'll be able to avoid the common mistakes and copy the exact strategy I used to turn cold traffic into high ticket sales. Let's get into it. Before we get to the fun stuff, let me begin with the biggest mistake I see with businesses spending 5 to 6 figures on ads. They're selling the wrong thing. Just because you're shoveling money into ads and funnels, if nobody wants what you're selling, how could you expect to get any sales? Most people are trying to market low margin, low perceived value offers and then blame Facebook when the ads don't work. A great example of this is people who are obsessed with organic traffic. They're like, paid ads don't work, and they just love getting clients organically. Those are the exact type of people that don't have an offer that works with cold traffic. Or worse, they just chase random trends without understanding if there's real buyer demand. So what should you actually be selling? In my experience, I'll look for something that's high ticket because number one, the economics are better. You can pay more to acquire a customer and it's way easier to scale. And something that generates a return for the prospect or promises a transformational result. And the second thing that I'll look for is an offer that's riding some sort of trend. Now a trend is different from a fad. A good example of a fad is the fidget spinner. They kind of blow up out of nowhere and then they die just as fast. But a trend is more of a long-term wave. Think of like remote work or AI is really hot right now. The reason why you want to ride a trend is because if you think about what a trend actually is, it's interest. And interest is just a proxy for demand. So if you find a trend, that basically signals demand for that space. A lot of the biggest e-commerce companies right now are riding off of health trends. For example, this cold plunge company is both high ticket and it's riding this cold therapy trend upwards, pushed by people like Andrew Huberman. AG1 is another example of that. It's not high ticket off the front end, but because of its subscription revenue, the LTV is very large, which makes it similar to a high ticket in the long run. And it's also riding this health trend. But even if you have the perfect product, if you don't know who to sell it to and how to sell it, it won't matter. Now let's talk about running ads. Because when you finally get this right, you'll be able to see the results that you've been wanting. Most people load up the ads manager, throw some random ads in there, target everybody, and then act surprised when they just burn their ad spend with completely zero results.
Let me ask you, does that sound like an ad strategy that the biggest businesses like Amazon would use? Absolutely not. And I fell into this trap too. When I first started running ads, I was running like a lead gen offer to real estate agents. This is an offer that had obviously been burned and used multiple times. Agents were so used to it. There was no trend or unique angle that would capture these guys' attention. And so as a result, I just was spending money and burning it and thinking it was the ad platforms. And as a result, I thought it was Facebook not working, but in reality, I just didn't know how to craft offers. So if that sounds like you, copy this exact strategy. Who I'd go after is target. I'd start by targeting wealthy individuals, people who value their time and not impressed by hype or high pressure tactics. They want information and they want it straight. For the ad creative, just keep it short and concise. Get straight to the offer. Use static ads. They work very well for this audience. And I can't iterate enough, it's all about the offer. If your ads aren't converting, it's likely because the offer isn't hitting. You might be able to make a better creative that could get some results, but if it's not hitting, it's almost always an offer problem and not the creative. For the campaign structure, it's very simple. Facebook nowadays wants everything to be very consolidated. Back in the day, you used to be able to launch 30, 40 ad sets and target different audiences and different interests, but nowadays they want everything to be very consolidated. So what that looks like is literally one CBO, one ad set targeting broad and letting the creative do the work, and then another one targeting stacks wealth related interests. And once you're spending enough money, also launch a retargeting campaign to retarget the people that have visited the funnel. For most of the offers that we run nowadays, that's the exact structure that we have, plus or minus a couple other campaigns depending on the spend. And like I said, that's the exact strategy that we use to easily generate sales for clients of mine who I've helped take from 0 to $1 million a month in 60 days, who I've scaled to $2 million a month plus, and who I've helped take in from 30K a month to 100K a month in their first month. And I've already generated 60 million plus for all my other clients, which means I can help you do the same and skip all the guesswork and wasted money because I spend my own money on your ads. So if you're interested, you can click the top link in the description. But once they click, now what? This is the part that makes or breaks your sales. And since my ad strategy targets the wealthy and older individuals, you have to do things a little bit differently, which means no more 45-minute VSLs that nobody watches because they simply don't work. Instead, we have to create a funnel that's optimized for information throughput. What do I mean by this? If you think about what a funnel is actually designed to do, it's designed to deliver as much information as possible to enable a decision in a way that reduces the cognitive load. Meaning you want to give them as much information as possible with them doing as little work as possible to get that information. And so if you think about a funnel like this, then it really just depends on how you want to lay out that information. For an older demographic, they like to read. So they're not going to want to sit there and be forced to watch a 15-20 minute video when they can just scan around and see what they want to see and then make a decision that way. The older and the wealthier people that we like to target prefer to read at their own pace. But that doesn't necessarily mean VSLs don't work. You just have to find the right demographic that prefers that way of consuming information. So what should your funnel actually look like? Here are some key funnel sections that we always have. The first is the hero section, and this is your headline. The hero section is the first impression of the page. And a lot of people like to write these super profound headlines like they're Apple or something, or write these extremely long headlines that are basically paragraphs. The litmus test for a good headline is this. If the prospect read nothing else on your page except for the headline, would they still know what you guys do and why they should use you? If the answer to that question is no, then you should probably rewrite the headline. Sometimes in the hero section, we won't have a VSL. Sometimes we will have a VSL depending, again, like who we're selling to. The next section that I always have is a features and how it works. You want to make this section visually appealing and also reduce the cognitive load. So one thing that we like to do is always use tabs. This is a way for the user to be able to get a lot of information without having to scroll 3 or 4 times down the page and make it seem like a really long thing. It's able to compress the information in a way that's visually easy to read. And obviously in this section, you want to focus on benefits. What can your product or service do for them rather than talking about how fancy it is, or rather than talking about all the things that you like about it. Next, after that is the testimonials and the risk reversal section. So we as humans, we're very social animals, and we like to see that other people have used your product before. The more testimonials, the better, but up to a certain point. And then usually we also have a risk reversal section. So basically a guarantee. But you don't want to go too over the top with the guarantee like some of these coaching offers are running. You basically just want to give the impression that you're confident enough in your product to secure the buyer's journey with some sort of risk reversal. 30-day money back guarantee, 45-day money back guarantee, something along those lines. After that, we have a quick CTA section, and then comes the FAQ section, which is crucial. This is an absolute non-negotiable in all of my funnels because it has 2 major functions. Number 1, it gives the prospect control into finding the information they need. And number 2, it allows us to handle all their objections up front without forcing them to watch a long video. So what we typically do for FAQs is to basically list all the possible objections that somebody might have about your product or service and then answer them. This way, when the prospect gets to the bottom of the page and they're trying to decide whether they should take the next step or not, they can scroll through and find the actual objection that they have and then read the actual response and basically objection handle themselves and to enable them to make that decision to make the next step. But there's one more thing separating the amateurs from the killers in the game, and it's not about what works once, but what compounds over time. This is what separates that one guy who got lucky once versus business owners that print cash on demand. They're not just running ads, they're running experiments and collecting data to get better over time. How can you expect to get better results over time if you're just putting up ads and not actually learning why the last one didn't or did work? And this is exactly how I learned so much about ads. Not too long ago, I was running ads exactly like this. We just throw up a random ad and then it would work, and then we would just basically leave it until it didn't work and then scramble to try to find another ad that would win. And the result of that was just kind of yo-yo performance, right? Like it's good when it's good, but then when the ads aren't hitting anymore, we're scrambling to try to find another winner, which is not really a sustainable way to scale. So here's what you should do. This is the secret sauce to long-term success. It's called stackable learnings. The concept is we don't just make random new ads when the old ones die. Every creative that we launch is a test designed to teach us something about our customer. You can think of it like building a puzzle. Each new ad that we put out is a piece that gives us a clearer picture of our ideal customers and what drives drives them. So what does this look like in practice? The first bottom layer is messaging. We have to figure out what message resonates with our audience. This is basically just playing with the offer and what kind of offer is going to stick and how can we word it in a way that sticks. The mistake that a lot of people make in this stage is they just have one offer and they try to make small little tweaks to the script on every single ad that they make. But you got to think of it like testing colors. If you have an ad that's red and then ad 2 is another shade of red and ad 3 is another shade of red, you're likely going to have similar performance for all three of those ads. They might all win, which is great, or they might all flop because they're pretty similar. So what you have to do in this initial stage when you're testing the messaging is to try very different messaging. Think of it like testing black and then red and then blue. Then the next piece would be finding an ad format that works. For example, a street interview format, or a talking head video, or a green screen video. And once we figure out that format, then we can move on to the next thing, which is making the minor iterations, like testing the background or testing different colors that a person wears. You shouldn't really be making these minor tests until you've figured out the rest of the puzzle, which is why it's called stackable. The result is that the average performance of the creative should go up over time and the cost should basically stabilize or ideally get lower, but that's kind of hard when you get to scale. So if qualified prospects aren't showing up for the call, it's never an audience problem and almost always an offer problem. A more compelling offer will naturally increase show rates. And if you want me to put all of this in place for you, the strategy, the ads, the funnels, and install a sales team that can close and manage the whole thing so you get more sales and clients without burning cash and guessing, then click the link below and let's talk. The best part about our offer is that I spend my money on you so you don't have to worry about ad spend. This is exactly what I've done to help some of my clients scale to over $2 million a month and scale an offer from $0 to $700,000 in 4 weeks. And we've already generated $60 million revenue for our clients as a whole with this strategy. Thank you for watching.